Testing, testing. Hello, hello, hello. Alright, I don't know if anyone's here. I haven't done any testing for this, so if somebody is here, then I hope the audio sounds alright. I suppose we'll wait to see if anybody else is coming. Alright, well, I guess if people join, they join. But I am going to just get started here. If anybody is here and the audio sounds bad, please let me know and I'll see what I can do to correct it. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is I'm just going to be playing through OMORI. A few years ago, I made a bunch of posts about different details in the game. There's a lot of little things in Headspace that a lot of people don't pick up on. At least I don't think people pick up on them that much. So I figured, it's been 3 years since I started posting about this, so maybe I'll just do a playthrough on twitch.tv and we'll go over some things as they come up. I mean, there's not too much. I mean, obviously you have yeah, you can talk to me well. You have all these different art pieces here. It's been a while since I have played this game. I'm wondering if there's anything I've forgotten over the years. Hey Apple, hey Apple. Yeah, we're not gonna I'm not gonna voice the characters or anything fun like that. We're just gonna play through it straightforward wise and yeah. Hey, first time chat. That makes sense because I've never streamed before. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the stream, however long you're able to watch. Like I said, we're just going to be... it's been a while since I played through OMORI. I want to play through OMORI, and I want to go over some of the things I like about it as we go, and some of the things maybe I don't like about it. Why would he do that? Why would Kel do that? I'm already on it. Way ahead of you. Headspace is a loop. That's how I knew where the stuffed toy was. One of OMORI's greatest mysteries. Where is Kel's mole? So, disclaimer, this is the first time I've played the Steam version of OMORI without any mods. Put it on Dash. Does the Steam version of OMORI not have the... Does it not have the border that the Switch version has? Is that a console exclusive? That's crazy. I guess I am learning something new about OMORI. Alright. I do want to make toast. There's a blender. Keep that in mind, that blender's going to come up later. I do like these little friend hangouts. Just these little animation sprites, getting to see them hang out. There's not really much to most of them, but I think it pays out pretty well because on 3 days left or 1 day left, you get all the real world hangouts, which are a bit better and do have a little bit more to them. So I think it works out pretty well. Especially if you're enjoying your time with the game and you're enjoying the characters, they're fun to see. I don't know what the snake is about. I don't know why there's a snake that gives you clams, but I'm sure that that was like the first thing that was developed, and they extrapolated the rest of the game from there in order to justify putting that snake in it. I will say the prologue is actually my favorite part of OMORI. I guess once we really get into the prologue proper, I can go over it in a little bit more detail why it holds that distinction for me. Up here, yeah, we do have another hangout right here. Want to build sandcastles with your friends? Yes, I do want to build sandcastles with my friends. We got a lighthouse, we got the boat, we have Mr. Plant Egg. Now I think the yeah, it's random who's swimming and all that. I don't know if all the sandcastles are random. I know clearly OMORI's is. Alright. We're not gonna spend too much time with that, but we'll just move on to the little hide and seek segment. Basil OMORI. Let me we'll move this up here. That way it's not covering the character portraits. Stream kind of looks a little dark. Is that just on my screen? I don't know. I don't know how streams work. So. Obviously, I think most people would agree one of the stronger parts of OMORI is definitely the character art comes across as very charming, even if everybody has the same bangs. Oh, we gone through the photo album already? I thought, man, it really has been a while since I played this game. I thought you didn't do that until you went to Basil's house. Basil only takes photos of people when they least expect it. Now, when you look through the photo album, at least the real world album, I don't know if you can see it in the Dream World photo album, the Headspace photo album, but there are a couple pictures which were staged in Basil's photo album, though I mean clearly most of them aren't. This is a little stating the character trait of the character. Which works because it's Headspace, and it's kind of just Sonny's mind saying, like, hey, this is a fact about Basil. And you get that you'll get that for several characters, not just him. But it's important we get Basil out of the way now because he's about to disappear for most of the game. Alright, here it is, the photo album. Now, a lot of these are pretty direct translations of photos from the real world photo album, but there are some differences. I made a post about all the differences years ago, but you know, maybe I'll notice some of them here. I didn't prepare for this, so obviously, you know, there are differences in the sentences and the little memos that Basil has written here. Obviously, there's a line in the real world album where Basil says, you know, maybe just a flower's all right. Yeah. Basil, yeah, he should probably be sent to some alternate dimension. He shouldn't be in Headspace, I think. But yeah, so, I mean, the obvious here. He wears a flower crown in Headspace, so it wouldn't make sense for him to say he doesn't want to wear a flower crown. Unclear if he really had an issue with wearing a flower crown in the real world, or if it was more of a embarrassment type thing. I mean, I don't think it's that unclear. There's definitely official art of the real world with him wearing a flower crown, so he probably does prefer it. Even though I don't think there's much in the real world outside of a couple of sprites and images. We'll see. Yeah. You have to admire his persistence. Everyone's eating watermelon, so juicy. Someone should tell her. I think this one's another obvious difference. In the real world, he's drinking Orange Joe. Orange Joe isn't a drink, I don't think, in Headspace, so he's drinking milk, even though he doesn't I don't know if he doesn't like milk in the real world. Well, I mean, I think he does say he doesn't like milk in the real world, but like, it's possible that he likes it in Headspace because he still drank a lot because he wanted to grow taller in the real world. That's extrapolation, though, so nothing's ever said. This one's really interesting. Mari had Hiro take a picture of us. Everyone thinks a flower crown really suits me. This is a strange difference between the real world photo album and the dream world. Suvi, yes, welcome. Yes, we're just going through the photo album for the first time. I'm cornplating about it, but yeah, this image is another one that has a difference. Basically, Mari had Hiro take a picture of us in the real world. Mari took the picture herself. I think this might be the picture where Basil says he needs to keep better track of his things. He clearly doesn't like people taking his camera. He said, I think it comes back up again later because of Kel in a later picture. Why does this change happen? I don't know, maybe even in the photo album, Mari's not allowed to leave the picnic blanket, so she had Hiro do it. Or maybe it's them trying to, Sunny's mind trying to get rid of all wrongdoing on Mari's part and say she didn't steal Basil's camera to take that picture. I don't know. First indication that Kel and Hiro are brothers. Brotherly love. Funnily enough, I've never actually had any issue with not realizing they're brothers, but I've heard that a lot of people don't realize they're brothers until the real world, but it does actually come up here. I don't think it's ever mentioned in dialogue, and people just skip through the photo album. Here we go. We're having a picnic today. They have picnics every day. It's at Space. Mari wanted to take a picture of everyone, say cheese. I fell asleep. I'm getting kind of sleepy myself. I think this one is a little different in the real world album. The Headspace one is interesting because Basil does not count himself in everyone. I feel like the real world album is different. I don't know. Again. Imagine. Oh yeah. Is the manga, I feel like the manga hasn't even posted a new chapter in like 6 months. I feel like I haven't seen anything about it. Here's another one. They're always on hiatus. I don't know what's going on there. Here's the other one. I think this memo is a little bit different in the real world. But it's just another thing that, showing Basil doesn't like having people taking his camera. Feet picture. I know which one OMORI is, and that's it. Alright, we can proceed. The photos are all so charming, Basil. Alright, let's just get through this. Like I said, I'm not going to be reading all the dialogue. I read it. I think most of the people who would see my Twitter post would also have already played the game, or at least like seen gameplay of it. I don't know though. Maybe there actually are a lot of OMORI fans who haven't actually played it. I'm losing. Is there really not? Is the border? Is the special like character borders unique to the console versions? I've never played the base game on PC. This is the first time. That's crazy. What's OMORI? That's a good question. I ask myself that all the time. Alright. I've only played, the resolution is forever boxed, so that is a console exclusive. I've only played the base game on Switch, and I only bought the game on Steam so I could play the Dreamer. Which, considering I'm working on an OMORI mod, I probably would have had to buy it myself eventually anyway. Alright. I don't know if we're going to do mini side quests. They're kind of repetitive. I'll probably pick a couple up. I probably won't do the Burley side quest. Though maybe I will. That's how you get headbutt on Aubrey, though, isn't it? Yeah. Well, in a little bit, probably as I'm going through the hide and seek, I'll talk about each of these. Like, yeah, what's crazy is, and this is what I've heard that all of that's in the code, and it was just never implemented. But there is some interesting. Yeah, I mean that's what I heard, because the tag photos got leaked before the console version released. Like the Basil and OMORI tag photos got leaked way before the console version's released because it was already in the codes. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. There are some interesting things about these. About the playground characters here. So I think that there's definitely a little bit we can talk about. Look how green Basil is. Like his sprite. You know, every like you look at any recent drawing of Basil. You look at like Headspace Basil, you look at any recent drawing of him, he's usually drawn more teal. Like and you look at especially these figurines, like his overalls are blue. He's got like a yellowish green shirt, which kind of matches his sprite. But his actual like walking around sprite is very green rather than teal. I never noticed he was holding a plate of corn in this scene. There's not a lot of dialogue that I find especially interesting at this point in the game. OMORI is it. He drew the shortest straw. Does he not have the hair sprout in any... Oh, hold on. You just changed my entire perception of things. I'm going to have to like look at the art again like when I get to the photo album. I thought it was always there. Is it new? Is the hair sprout console exclusive? That's crazy. Steam version's literally unplayable. Okay, I just said there is not a lot of dialogue that I find especially interesting. This one is because Basil really would take OMORI's place if he wanted him to. Matchies. The straws make the rules. Yeah, Charlene. So, I mean, like most of these I mean, they're the hooligans, right? Like most of these characters in the, I mean, there's a couple exceptions here, but most of the characters in the playground are the hooligans, and most of their names are pretty similar to what they have in real life. Kim is Burley. Her full name is probably Kimberly. Vance is Van. That's crazy. I thought this was a video game that I could play however I wanted to play it. But outside of that, so Neb, yeah, that's the one exception here. I'm probably going to talk quite a bit about Daisy today because this is the day that you have the Daisy thing. But, I mean, just to go over everybody else first, everybody else is either one of the hooligans or somebody else that you can still find in the real world, or one of Sunny's plushies, or both. So I believe several of Sunny's plushies are also representative of the younger students that you can find in the real world. Daisy is interesting. I've talked about them going to camp before. There is implications in this game that there was a summer camp at some point that is never expanded on within the game directly, but there is a lot of references to like similar occurrences that indicate that it must have happened at some point. But Neb and Daisy are very interesting because Daisy does not have a so nobody ever says directly. So Kel and Angel, we know for a fact, went to a summer camp at some point. In Headspace, you get a lot of like campfires. I mean, in Otherworld, you'll see it. There's a little campsite. There's of course Daddy Longlegs and his campfire. Just a lot of like references to camping that are pretty interesting when the only references in the real world to it are not really. There might be something else. I made a whole post about it like years ago, and I don't remember exactly the evidence I used. But Neb and Daisy. So Daisy is the only character, other than Boss, is the only character on the playground who doesn't have like an apparent counterpart in the real world. And Neb is clearly Angel, but his name's Neb. Which I don't think that makes sense. He's the only one of the hooligans who has a name that really just doesn't match up with his actual name in the real world. I've like looked into it before. I've tried to figure out what Neb could possibly mean. I don't get it. Maybe I mean a bunch of the hooligans are named after like developers, so maybe Angel is a developer and Neb is like a middle name or something. But it's a weird thing that it only happens to Angel, especially when Angel is connected to Daisy, who is already a weird character in her own right as far as series goes. I didn't turn off Steam notifications, so I guess you're going to see if any of my Steam friends are playing games on Steam. Alright, we're trying to get to the good stuff, so let's... yeah, there's Nose and Bun. Van is a nice guy. Bang's real-world counterpart has a gaming computer, which seems a little anachronistic with most of the other technology that you see in the game. He has a state-of-the-art gaming computer, and on his bed lies a Walkman. Mikal, the Maverick, even back then, he was wearing a blonde wig, which that's kind of funny. I think the Maverick is one of the greatest characters in this game, in fact. I don't like talking about Mori's timeline. I think when you look at the evidence in the game, it was clearly supposed to take place in like 1996, and then current canon is 2000. And I think that would just work really well. But like every piece of merch after is straight up they're trying to go for 2000s. I think it's because the fan base is quite young, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, though. Don't shoot me for it. I don't think there's any other real reason to put the 1990X date in Deep Well, or shoot, wherever it is Hero goes. Yeah, Last Resort. I just don't think it really makes sense for that 1990X date to even be there if it wasn't supposed to say, yeah, the game pre-canon was in the 90s. Of course, I also, when I actually theorized about this, I also connected it to my Mari was born on a leap year theory, which was a huge missed opportunity, because then it would be 143 days from Mari's birthday to Sunny's. But OmoCat hates fun, I guess. So forevermore, Mari's birthday will be 142 days to Sunny's birthday. They should have let me develop this game. You really can't say no to anyone, Hero. Sean and Ren. Charlene. So, yeah, I mean, that is really the thing that does it. I think before people used to use the Hooligan's jacket, but technically, in my interpretation, post-canon is in the year 2000 anyway. Oh yeah, we'll talk about smoothies, don't you worry. I don't know if we're going to get any smoothies tonight. Eternal Banana. Bananas are everywhere in this game. Bananas also relate to smoothies. Do I suck at hide and seek? Where's freaking oh no. Where's... Am I... Where's Burley? Oh, she's hiding underground. Oh wow. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that. Burley is underground somewhere. There's supposed to be a straw. Have I not found anyone? Have I not actually found you yet? Do you not count? God damn it. Okay. I thought I already found. I thought I already found Browse. The straw kind of looks like a smoothie there. Burley's a funny character because the group is kind of pretty negative with Burley, despite, including Aubrey, especially Aubrey, despite Aubrey being pretty good friends with Kim in the real world. And I guess you could interpret that as they didn't get close until after the incident, which I guess could make sense. But you could also interpret that as Sunny not liking Kim and just making everybody else not like her either. Everybody forgot about Basil. I believe this is the first... I don't know, actually, do they forget about Basil in this scene? Okay, so they didn't forget about Basil in this scene. I for some reason I thought this was like the first instance. It is, of course, part of what I was saying about the prologue, kind of predicting the rest of the game, is before Basil goes missing, he does go missing. I think that is probably the more reasonable interpretation. Is they got close after the time skip, or during the time skip rather. Probably, wouldn't make sense for them. I mean, they're probably all friends in the general sense, since Sunny dreams about them all playing hide and seek. Though, interestingly, never appear in the photo album, or anything like that. Actually, I don't think the park appears in the photo album at all. Like, there's nothing in the photo album from the park, which is interesting, because it's such a central location. There's a lot of things that I consider interesting about Omori. There was discourse. I'm not going to get into it too much because it kind of evolved into something much worse than just discourse, in my opinion. But there were people talking about just like the writing of Omori, and I'm a sucker for talking about Omori's writing. But yeah, it evolved into something a little bit worse involving some of the people who were leading the discourse, and I was not here for that. Yeah. That's what I live for. I want people... This is actually... Those tweets yesterday, I woke up, I'm still getting a bunch of notifications. I haven't gotten those kinds of numbers from posting about Omori in like 2 years. Like, I think it's like pre-manga. I haven't really, I think the manga killed like most of the interest in my tweets, at least. Or maybe I just wasn't tweeting anymore. Boss is the only other character on the playground who doesn't have a real world counterpart. Presumably, there are people who would argue that is it Charlie's older brother would be Boss? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't really know if that makes sense. Boss is he's not much of a character. He strikes me more as a quintessential just headspace being. That's true. Basil's flower crown. No. Look how I swear his hair gets more green when he loses the crown. Yeah, definitely doesn't need to. Like, I mean, you could argue that it makes him the only headspace boss without any kind of real world counterpart. But I mean, Jawsum's also kind of like that. Though a lot of people like to say Jawsum represents the different fathers in Omori. Or maybe like specific fathers. I don't know. I'm just gonna hold the B button while I'm talking so it keeps going. This is a boss only zone. But of course, Space Boy. Oh! Space Boy, of course, has his whole thing. Yeah, the wristwatch. That's an interesting thing. He's also I'm pretty sure Boss also like says Hero is like the son he wishes he had or that he never had, and their suits have like the same design, like his pajamas and Jawsum's suit. Is that right? I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I mean, from that perspective, I think it's a little weird that you never find like a picture book in the Omori route that is like, oh, this is about a purple rhino. But yeah, not everything really needs a real world counterpart. But I maintain that Daisy is still a weird exclusion. Sunny's dad didn't have a suit, but Jawsum has a suit. And I believe that it has the... now I'm second guessing myself. Does it not have? Am I just adding Bossman Hero's suit as Jawsum's suit? Shoot. I'm not gonna look it up. I'm just gonna be saying shit. We're keeping it off the cuff here. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Boss needs to have a real world counterpart. I think Daisy is still the much more interesting character for that, because daisies are important, and there's some other stuff that I'll discuss my interpretation of as we do her little side quest, because I think that's one we can do just as we are doing the regular stuff as we go through. Yeah. Rip Bozo. You really got Aubrey play, like it really plays up Aubrey's concern for Basil specifically, which, you know, does make sense. They knew Basil knew Aubrey the longest. We don't know, I mean, I guess we don't technically know how long they knew each other before Aubrey introduced him. My interpretation was always that Aubrey met the rest of the friend group first. But I do know that many people hold the interpretation that Aubrey and Basil were friends first, and then Aubrey introduced Basil to the rest of their friends afterwards. I don't really buy into that. I think it would be weird for Aubrey to not already be with Basil in the scene where she's crying, if they were already friends, especially since it happened like right next to his house. But I guess it's a little bit open for interpretation and doesn't really change much about the game. But yeah, they're setting that up a lot here for that reason, and also well, yeah, Aubrey does directly say that she didn't have anyone before the friend group. It's just a matter of which part of the friend group she met first. But again, that part doesn't really matter. But I mean, the main reason that they're playing up Aubrey's concern for Basil here is so that when we meet Aubrey in the real world, we can see just how big of a difference how she is treating him there is. Because if she wasn't constantly showing concern, then people would be like, did Aubrey always hate Basil? When you were all fighting, he tried really hard to make sure I didn't get hurt. Way to go, boss. Maybe you're a real good guy after all. Also, boss hides in a tree. Trees are a little bit important to Omori. That's true. They do all... I mean, I think it's one of those ambiguities. Boss is something confirmed, by the way. He is in the tree. Yeah, I always interpreted it as Aubrey was comforted by the friend group. Yeah, I always interpreted it as Aubrey was comforted by the friend group before she was really that close with Basil, and then met Basil in some kind of event, and then decided to introduce him to the rest of the friend group. But it's not as if the game gives much more information on character dynamics that don't involve Sunny, because it takes place mostly in Sunny's head. I mean, technically, we don't even know when that happened. Like, we don't know how long the friend group was friends before the Christmas of the photo album. Alright. Yeah, probably not. Omocat. I'm gonna start an Omocat had a ghostwriter conspiracy. She didn't even write the game. She just drew some pictures and then she got somebody else to do it. Alright, this scene is interesting. Well, there's obvious things about this scene that are interesting, and how it contrasts from the real explanations Basil gives. Sunflowers call that because they always face towards the sun. Basil's a freaking idiot. Sunflowers don't really do that once they grow up. He should go die. But if you're not aware, this whole sequence, all the flower meetings as they connect to the friend group, was one of the last things added to the game, I believe. I think that Omocat said that in an interview at some point, that this sequence did not originally appear in the game. I've went back and forth on that. I'm wondering if we may have misinterpreted what she meant there. I think it makes sense because the flower meanings only appear in these sequences, and there's like one picture during the duet, which we also know came late in development, of the different flowers. But she could have just meant that this sequence was added late in development, and that the actual version of the meanings that Stranger gives later on was always in there. I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually looked at the exact interview, but I think it's completely possible that the flower meanings weren't in there. I think if you look at a lot of early art, these flowers that get compared to really don't appear in a lot of concept art. It's always lily of the valleys and daisies, and sunflowers, which already, Basil can compare himself to a sunflower as much as he wants. By the way, obviously Mari's lily of the valley thing kind of look like white tulips in their sprite, and they're hanging. That's a reference to something. We love referencing something. Also, they ward off evil spirits, which Mari is an evil spirit. She is a demon from hell. She must be exorcised. And that is the point of the game. Sprout moles. Man, you really just don't have to do stuff with emotions in this game. Yeah, that's true. Let's go see the sprouts in my house. Yeah, the garden. I mean, I'm sure we've even probably seen earlier versions of the game that didn't have this at his house. I feel like I've seen screenshots of demo builds from like 2019, and this garden's not there. Something interesting that I want to mention about this scene. Oh, can I not go back, and will he not give me the meetings again? Yeah. So something interesting about this scene, about this sequence, is that when Basil gives the meaning for gladiolus's cacti, which don't really have a particular meaning. Well, gladioluses and cacti, Kel and Aubrey have things to say about that. However, Mari's not in the group right now, so she can't really say anything about hers. But throughout this entire sequence, Hero does not say anything about the about roses. In fact, nobody says anything about roses. Hero doesn't really say anything about any of the things. And if you wanted to take that, considering this appears when Stranger says it, you could take this to mean that this is an actual conversation that happened in the real world at some point, and I could say, you could point out that Basil also talks about Hero in third person here, implying he's not there, but I'm pretty sure Basil talks about everybody in third person when he's going through these. You could potentially interpret Hero and Mari as not being present at the time Basil disclosed these flower meanings. Universally loved, of course. You get the reference. To get the true ending, all you have to do really is go back and water the flowers before ending the night. Like, you don't have to keep checking back throughout the entire night, right? When I play this game for myself, I always try to like end fights with the bread slice ability that Omori gets, so that I can get the slice of bread. I don't know why I do that, because it doesn't really change anything. Like, I don't think they heal that much, and you can pretty easily just get better healing items, or just use Hero. Emotions can determine how strong or weak an attack is. Oh, that's also the other reason they put this sequence into the beginning, was so that they could explain the emotion system, because that was also a late addition to the game. Happy beats angry, angry beats sad, sad beats happy. I have quite a bit to say about the emotion system. Not really. As a gameplay mechanic, it's whatever. It doesn't end up being all that relevant outside of very specific situations. The combat is not difficult in this game. But they did decide to connect it to the narrative by making each of the reactions to Mari's death from each of the characters. Yeah, I've never thought about that, but yes, that is true. I mean, the whole game was made in the last year. Let's not kid ourselves here. I think, anyway, but with the reactions, I think, obviously with Aubrey, I think they looked at the emotion system and realized that it already lined up pretty well with Aubrey and Kel. If you've read any of my interpretations of, like, the meta, you would know that I personally believe that before the emotion system, the whole thing about Hero locking himself away for a year and not leaving his bed, and then his fight with Kel, I don't actually think that was in the original version of the game before the emotion system. I think that was added after they introduced the emotion system, just because, for one, you only know that happened in a optional scene from, I believe, that you can only get in 3 days left. A very missable scene that would be very easy to add after the rest of the game is already created. And why do I think this? Because the game takes place 3 to 4 years after Mari's death. Hero has seemingly been at college for several years. And, you know, just the way they talk about, like, his favorite food, he's like, oh, again, for another year. It's like the way he words it implies he's been at college for more than 1 or 2 years, which also gets into how I think some of the timeline of Omori has changed up. But the other thing is, during the tree stump scene, Aubrey makes the incorrect assertion that they never say he's 19. They say he's 15 in Headspace, and the real world takes place 3 to 4 years after. I believe that most of the characters were a year older at one point. I believe that he I mean, well, that's just a fact. The younger characters were 13 in an earlier version of the game, and in the release version, they are 12. Like, we have versions of the photo album that do that. The final duet was late. I've personally interpreted it as something that was always going to be there, though. Yeah, so like Hero has just now seen that Aubrey's changed, implying he hasn't been around for a while. Which, I mean, I guess that's true no matter how long he's been at college. But at the tree stump, Aubrey makes the incorrect assertion that after Mari's death, Hero drew himself away and just got enveloped in his studying, which we know is true a year after the incident, because that is after his fight with Kel. But isn't actually true, and I don't personally believe the game actually portrays Aubrey as being wrong there. I think instead that is a leftover bit of dialogue that where from an earlier version of the game where Hero's immediate reaction to Aubrey's death was to just focus more on his studies and become more inward about that. And then when the emotion system was added, that was changed, and Aubrey is simply incorrect there. Maybe they realized that, and they decided that Aubrey should just remain being incorrect, and that would make sense and be realistic. Personally, I don't think that makes too much sense. I don't think Aubrey would have such an uncharitable view of Hero there. Considering he, again, did not leave his house for a year and did not go to school for a year, is what Kel says. Yeah, cacti. And then we have white tulips, the most famous change. I believe the flower description for cactus also changes in the Stranger version, but that's more because Kel is not around to provide his half of the dialogue. But white tulips, the definition is fairly different here. Plain, simple, and bulbous, just like OMORI. I don't know. I just think it's cute. I mean, if you like sunflower, you probably really like this whole thing. You know, both flower meanings. But I mean, it's also pretty obvious like why this was changed. Sunny is super represso mode. White tulips. Oh my gosh, I have to kill this freaking sprout mole. Get out of my freaking way. Yeah, finally got to that point in development. Again, I don't know if that's true regarding the final duet. I just can't imagine a version of OMORI's ending that doesn't have it. And so I have to assume that as far back as that was the ending of the game, that final duet was going to be there. But again, that whole they may not have even thought up the twist until 2019. Like, like OMORI was famously in development hell. Let's put it out of its misery. Goodbye, sprout mole. That is correct. I freaking hate sprout moles. I think I do like the sprout moles. I'm gonna say it. I think they're charming little headspace critters. Yeah, I mean, I kind of got into that in one of my recent tweets. Is like, it's hard to say the characters reacted to Mari's death in a realistic way, because I think that the characters' reactions were written long before Mari was ever conceived as a dead character. You and your friends feel like new. Oh yeah, you get these little scenes the first time. Thanks, Mari, you're the best. Mari, I wish I could be more like you. You always seem to have everything under control. It just seems that way from the outside. They are very missable. Also, I feel like there's like 1 or 2 picnics that don't have events. And then then there's there's like 3 that you can only get in the OMORI route after getting Basil unlocked, which are so missable because ain't nobody got time for that. That's a reference for the kids. I'm pushing 30. I'm 28. Yeah. How could you? I mean, it's an interesting place to put a choice, especially because I'm fairly certain that the choice does not matter. I mean, I don't think that line. I think it's just alternative dialogue. I'm sure at one point I could recite exactly what they say in that scene is. Oh yeah, in this one you just have to keep attacking until you unlock the rush. This is like where the Smash Pro character trailer would play, where like Roy's being pushed back and then they announce Mewtwo or whoever right after, or Cloud. And it's like, there's a second character coming too. Oh my goodness, Suvi, when I was in the trenches back in the day, and when I wrote Smoothie Theory, I've created entire Google Sheets that are organized every item in the game with the item ID assigned to it. And it was crazy stuff. Hero, I know more than you. I'm trying to get speedrun to the hide and seek part. Well, I've got good news about your speedrun results, because that was about 15 minutes ago. I like this. It's cute. I mean, I feel like you don't really, at least the way I play the game, I usually never get to 10 to be able to do the rush, because I'm always trying to do the follow-ups. But it's a fun little animation. And there you have it. That was so amazing. That was nothing. Basil, I know you're not the type that likes to fight, but it's good to know how to defend yourself too. Yeah, it's like once you like figure out what works, there's like not a whole lot of depth to it. I mean, Kel Nuke is like one thing, but it's like Aubrey Headbutt's like kind of like the same way. Like you get the skill that is powered by the emotion, and then you just max out that emotion, and then I mean with Aubrey Headbutt you at least have to keep healing her, but that's not difficult. Yeah, at times the game might as well just be a visual novel. OMORI Hater 222. Welcome. I know this might not be your most comfortable stream to be in. Basil lives in a shoe. I don't really get it. I believe this photo ends up fully developing at the end of the OMORI route, or maybe he just takes a new one, I don't remember. So what is interesting about this little area is that it is, among other places that you see in the game, it is highly reminiscent of the hideout that they have, which by all indications they did not visit very many times. But yeah, you have the bridge that kind of emulates the dock. We're right here. I'll just keep skipping the dialogue because it's not really important, but you have this fight between Kel and Aubrey, in which Basil, of course, gets knocked over, knocks all the photos out of the photo album. Sonny is a bit of a weirdo, which, you know, in my interpretation of this prologue, where most of it is foreshadowing for events that will happen later in the game, it has clear parallels to another fight, primarily between Aubrey and Kel, I think it's fair to say, that ends up resulting in Basil being pushed over. Unfortunately, there's no shoe house and he falls into the water. Not to say that Sonny is psychic or anything like that. I think it's more of just a storytelling foreshadow, or maybe I'm delusional and that this isn't actually foreshadowing and it's just a complete coincidence. But there's some other stuff that happens within the prologue that I think does come across as foreshadowing, especially with the knowledge that a lot of this stuff in the prologue was added last. I mean, I guess we don't have confirmation of that, but yeah. Please don't tell Mari. That please don't tell Mari is interesting. We do get... I'm not to be like, oh, Mari's super abusive or anything like that, because that's not what I believe. But there are several indications throughout the game, primarily a big one that happens close to the end, that imply that Mari might have a little bit of a temper to her. You know, Kel, Aubrey saying, please don't tell Mari, which, you know, at the time can just come across as, you know, not wanting to disappoint her. But you also have the Lost Library entry about Kel staining the floor of the house and running off, and somebody with a 4-character name getting really upset. Of course, at the time you read that, you are led to believe that that would be Hero. But Kel will later say that Mari got so mad about that when you do bring them over to the house. So you do get a bit of a reveal that it was actually Mari who got red in the face. Is that the wording that they used in the Lost Library, or am I making that up? I don't know. I haven't played this game in 3 years. But yeah, I mean, and obviously there is a clear reason that Sunny would have hid that memory away, because Mari doesn't really get angry in Headspace, and Sunny would prefer not to have that. So, Basil, now that we're in Basil's house, yeah, somebody, well, it doesn't say her because it wants you to think that it's Hero. So it says, it has the 4 character blanks, and it says, blank's face turns red and yells at Kel or whatever. Yeah. One of the first times that I was explicitly wrong in an OMORI analysis was regarding Basil's house in Headspace. I said that it was lit by candles, but upon closer inspection, those are actually dandelions. I don't know how I made that mistake, because I know that dandelions are somewhat relevant to OMORI. But yeah. I mean, I guess technically, I can't confirm that you're supposed to believe it's Hero, but up until that point, Mari really isn't shown to ever get angry, because you only see her in Headspace, and there's obviously nothing in the photo album that indicates that. But you do see Hero get annoyed with Kel on several occasions, so, yeah. I wish. Oh man, OMORI if it was good. But I'm pretty sure that memory is why Sunburn is called Sunburn as a ship. So that would be like an alternate universe where Sunburn is Sunflower. And here we go. Photo must have been loose. Alternate Mio line of dialogue. Not much to do around here, is there? Or is there? Are you looking for a way out? I always forget about this new, about the new Miwo dialogue. Yep, there's something. I know sometimes things can appear if you run around. But I don't got time for that, so we're gonna stab ourselves, and we're gonna continue with the game. Look at all of us. Man. Watching these cutscenes after just like not playing this for a while, it does get to me a little bit. Like I said before, I think most people can agree that if there is one thing that OMORI does well, it is the charming art and animation in these little segments, and the photo album, and all that. I'm glad to hear it. For those, I mean, I don't even know how many people are watching this, but my name is CM Kurt. I made a lot of analysis posts on Tumblr.com 3 years ago, most of them having to do with Sunflower. but a lot of them not, and more some of them more just being meta. I'm the lead writer of Sinesk, a mod that will release at some point, I promise. And I eventually did move to Twitter, and so I did have some posts blow up. Sonny's name. Very controversial decision to make it so that you can change his name. And in fact, I think it took a very long time before OMOCAT ever referred to the player as Sonny. I believe in most promotional material, they simply have always said OMORI until somewhat recently. I call them analysis because I'm right. And if I said theories, that leaves it up in the air. But I mean, like, other than that, I mean, I think you could argue. So Sonny is his own character. There are things in this game that rely on Sonny's name being Sonny. The whole thing with sunflowers, the sun shined brighter when she was here. His name is supposed to be Sonny. Like, there's just things in the game that were written with the intention of his name being Sonny, which makes it very funny that they make it so you can change his name. If the only reason that I can provide outside of just RPG conventions is that by putting your name in there, you are putting yourself in his shoes, to make it clear that Sonny is not intentionally lying to you throughout the game, because you are not a character within the game. Sonny is lying to himself, and you are Sonny. So when the closet door is not appearing on the wall, that is not Sonny hiding it from you. It is him refusing to show it to himself. I don't know if that's true. That is always my interpretation of it. It is, and when you get into that, you do kind of see some people who don't like OMORI will refer to Sonny being a bad person, and use that as a little bit of evidence, like as trying to hide the evidence, which I don't think that makes too much sense, but I think it's a plausible enough explanation for it. But I think it's still not good. Like I said, they went out of their way to write parts of the game that kind of only make sense with Sonny around. Hey Sonny, it's Mommy. Bro's 15 or 16. We don't know if this game takes place before or after July, but he's 15 or 16 and his mom still calls herself Mommy. We should kill him for that. So, I'm still in the city setting things up for our new home. Did you finish packing yet? So, first indication that Sonny is moving in 3 days. Well, in a few days. A few does mean 3. Mommy messed up. Forgot to tell the electric company that we need a few extra days before we're ready to move, so the lights might cut out sometime tonight. Anyway, I know moving to a new place can be a little nerve-wracking right now, but I think a change of scenery will be positive for both of us. I know you haven't talked to anyone in a while, but you might want to say goodbye to your old friends before we leave. Kel has been trying really hard to get a hold of you ever since we put our house up for sale. He's been calling us every week for the past few months. He seems a little lonely. Maybe you should pay him a visit. Okay, that's it for now. Mommy loves you. Bye, honey. Bzzt. Yeah, so you are hungry. There's a couple of things here. First, there's a misconception among players that I have seen in the past that Kel has never stopped trying to get Sonny to come outside, which, as you see in that dialogue, he's only recently been trying to get him to come outside since he realized that they're moving, which is the inciting incident. It makes sense. I don't think that is a detriment to Kel's character by any means. He had a lot going on. But another thing, they do mention that the power will cut out at some point in the night. That kind of goes along with how some people interpret it's not that people don't like it. It's just a misconception that people have. Like people, like I've just seen people believe that Kel has knocked on his door every day for 4 years, which isn't what the game says. I don't think it really impacts much to believe that. I think Kel's character is mostly the same, whichever way you do it. But I do think it is important to acknowledge that that Sonny moving is the inciting incident and is the reason Kel has renewed his efforts of trying to get him to come outside. Again, doesn't really matter. I think the interpretation of Kel is still exactly the same regardless. Are you supposed to go to sleep and then Sonny gets hungry and tries to get back up? Is that how it works? Yeah, that's how it works. Anywho, the power going out. Sorry, I am so ADHD right now. There's this whole... I guess we'll talk more about it when we get past this something fight here. But there is this whole debate as to the steak that Sonny microwaves, and if the fridge was running, and if the microwave was running, and if the steak was rotten, or if there was food in the fridge that Sonny is choosing not to see because he hates himself or whatever. And the evidence for the fridge actually running is, of course, that the phone works. Which, I don't know. I think it's pretty. I don't think this scene's lying to us. I think the steak's rotten. I think the fridge, like, I mean, even if the fridge, I'm trying to remember. We'll see it when we get down there. I think the fridge light turns on when you open it. I think it's more so you can't just microwave a frozen steak. But also, a landline phone being online is not evidence that the power is still on, because a landline phone generally did not use the power lines. That is a emergency thing. They got their power directly through the phone line. I know because I'm old enough to have owned one at one point. That's true. I guess the other evidence that Sonny is choosing not to see things in the fridge is that Hero does have food. Actually, don't they? I'm pretty sure they say that Hero ran. Am I going crazy? Doesn't the game say that Hero did his morning jog and picked up groceries while he was doing that? I don't know. I feel like that's a thing in the game. Maybe I made that up. I make a lot of stuff up sometimes. The something fights. This is a big thing. I don't know how people generally like these. I mean, I think these sequences are somewhat important. Sonny's 3 big fears: fear of heights, fear of spiders, fear of drowning. Make for good character beats, kind of. The sequences are really good, and there's a lot of things that could be interpreted, because this is probably Mari talking. I will say these 3 fears are a little disconnected from parts of the game. I mean, the earliest that we know of Sonny's fears existing are the original lake incident, in which he almost drowns after trying to jump from the statue at the lake. You can go over here. There's nothing here. You got a first aid kit. Cardboard boxes are littered across the house. Sonny refuses to go into the piano room until Hero does it first. I love the lake incident and how it affects the way we see things here. So the fridge light is on. Is Sunny making that up? I don't know. I think it's just that you can't microwave a steak. Is Sunny's mom irresponsible for leaving Sunny at this house alone? I think that Sunny's mom is... I think that would be nice. The problem is the lake incident happens... Well, we don't actually know when the lake incident happens, but it happens something... so it happens somewhat late in the timeline is the problem with that. And Mari needs to break her ankle before Sunny gets the violin, because that's why she starts putting her all into music, is because she can no longer play softball. At least that's part of it. Is Sunny's mom irresponsible? Sunny's 15 or 16, clearly not a normal 15 or 16-year-old with everything that's happened. That being said, outside of this cold steak, I'm pretty sure Sunny is left with like $20 or $30, which, you know, that's actually quite a bit. Some people have provided the argument that, like, you can probably buy a lot of Genos with that $20, $30. I actually had actually 3 years ago today, I made a theory about when the lake incident happened on Tumblr.com. Yeah, she's a single parent who spends 3 days shopping for furniture or something like that. I think she said it's like she found a good deal. I think it's fine. I think she just needs to be out of the way for the game to work. And there's a lot of questions that her existence implies. And I'm not really going to get into any of that because I don't really find it to be that interesting. But she's not around, and I think I go back and forth on whether I think they know or not. My current answer is that I think the game wants us to believe that they know from stuff in Black Space. But I think it would be better if they didn't. I think the parents knowing causes issues thematically, and as soon as a adult knows about what happened, I unfortunately do think it absolves Sunny and Basil of a little bit of responsibility when the adults that were in charge knowingly chose to keep it going. And maybe that's, and maybe that's why Sunny's dad left, but I personally think it's better if they don't know, though them knowing does answer a lot of questions. I think there are quite a few people who try to say it doesn't make sense that they got away with it. I don't think so. It's like the 90s, early 2000s in a small town. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do the Hail Mary stuff. But the openness of it works. It's just, I think there's stuff in Black Space 2 that goes a step beyond it being open. I think the game does directly imply that at least the mom knows. And I think the game somewhat implies that Sunny thinks that his dad knows, or at least attributes to his dad leaving to be his fault. But I just don't like it. Welcome to White Space. Was I talking about something else? I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to come up again and again and again as we go, because there's a lot of repeated elements. Let's just get going here. White door casts a faint shadow. Do nothing. Stare at the door. Oh, you have to go get the... You have to kind of like mess around for a little bit, and then like the map falls, right? again, I mean, yeah, I guess last thing I want to say, I don't think it matters all that much. I think in the sunny route, there's nothing that implies one way or the other whether they know. It's only in the OMORI route that you get a little bit more of that, and so most people, because I'm going to say I don't think most people play the OMORI route. Yeah, thanks for dropping by, Suvi. I miss you. Bye. Where's the map? Hi, my name is CM Kurt, and I have played OMORI for more than anyone else, as everybody else in the OMORI fandom likes to say. And it took me way too long to find that. Oh yeah, but the first theory that I ever made was about when the original lake incident takes place. We know that it has to happen the year of the photo album because they only find the photo album directly says that they just discovered it in like May. And of course, after the lake incident, Mari does not let them go there anymore. So it has to happen at some point during the photo album, but Basil does not say anything about it in the album, obviously. And in fact, the way the incident is discussed, Basil may not have even have been there. My interpretation was that it takes place in August, as there is as one, not a lot happens in August in the photo album. There's like a little bit of a gap there, which I believe is kind of explained away as them being busy with school and Sunny with the recital and all that. And August is also, I believe, when they build the tree house later in the month. But there's a Black Space musical track called August/Water. And the only other place with water is the beach, which is not in August when they go to the beach. I'm trying to remember when it was. I mean, we'll find it out later. Was it September? I think it was September. It was like the day, or was it earlier in the summer? I don't know. We'll probably keep going for another hour or so. I kind of just hopped on as soon as I got off work. Oh shoot, I didn't look at the hull. I'll probably keep doing this till I finish, because yeah. So August Water, it plays in the Black Space beach area, but they didn't go to the beach in August. Was it early in the summer or late in the summer? It was either June or September. I don't remember. To me, that is a solid enough explanation for just saying that the lake incident happened in August, because they never go to the lake after that. After August, I believe there's only like one or two mentions of the hideout in the photo album total. Yeah. Oh, I like Black Space. There's a lot to talk about Black Space. We're gonna try to get past the prologue, and if that does not take long, we might start day one of Faraway. If not, we'll do that tomorrow. Don't be such a downer, Aubrey. We'll find Basil for sure. This is filler. This is the filler arc of OMORI, is having to go back to Basil's house. I guess it like introduces watering the flowers, but this little detour is gonna cost us 20 minutes, I bet. Also, you saw I got an achievement there. That's on account of this being the first time that I'm playing the game unmodded on Steam. Because the Switch version is better. Please, OMOCAT, release the Switch 2 version of OMORI. I would like to play it in 120 frames per second, 4K, with ray tracing. His disappearance is concerning. What a nerd. Here's a nerd. I think these little conversations, these little conversations that they have are interesting in Headspace, because it's interesting to try to parse what is a actual character trait of Aubrey or Kel or Hero, and what is something that has been projected onto them by Sunny. Especially when we're talking about things about Basil. Like, I think that there's a very valid interpretation that some of the things that these characters mention about Basil are not things that the actual versions of those characters know about, and that Sunny is externalizing those things to make himself seem not as important to Basil, but there's not a lot of evidence of that. It's kind of just an interpretation type thing. Voicing the characters. Please try. Yeah, I'm not doing a character voicing thing. I'm more into analysis here. I'm here for the facts and logic. Basil's shoe house. Something. Alright, I'll slow down on the dialogue then. What if we can't find him? What if he's in danger? Again, Aubrey taking the lead on being concerned about Basil, which will be heavily contrasted by how she behaves with him in the real world. Alright, now we have to run all the way back. So I'm gonna be real. I don't really like. Can I voice Bud Girl? So Bud Girl meows. So I promise you that when we get to Bud Girl, I will meow. Unfortunately, we probably won't be getting to Bud Girl today because I believe in order to get to her, you need to get the skill that only exists within Sweetheart's castle. Basil. So I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like Vast Forest all that much. It's probably one of my least favorite areas of Headspace. There's just not a lot going on in it. It's like, I mean, these scenes are cute, of course. And maybe it's just because it's like the first area. Like, I can't really remember what it was like the first time I played through Vast Forest. But like you compare it to like Otherworld, and it's just trees. Like the grass isn't even a fun color; it's just green. There's some cool stuff here, though. I like the little alcoves. There's the ghost dog. There's Bud Girl. There's this rabbit that I'm gonna kill. We will not be doing the kill a million gajillion rabbit quest in this playthrough, unfortunately, but I do think that there are some interesting aspects to that quest. The Wise Rock, famously as tweeted by Out of Context Indie Games, the Wise Rock. But yeah, the rabbit quest is somewhat interesting because they mention, is it Nose? Or one of the playground characters is mentioned to have been talking to the character that gives you the quest, which is a strange connection, and I've never really been quite sure what it means. I'm sure if you look through everything I've ever said, I've probably mentioned it at some point. Did you guys see that? Just a tire swing. That was nothing. But yeah, it is a strange one. It's one of the plushy characters that is friends with the character that gives you the rabbit killing quest. And then there's also the connection to like Aubrey, who wouldn't want you to kill rabbits, and I believe in an earlier build of the game refuses to fight rabbits. I don't know though. It's kind of just one of those things where, in my opinion, it's not elaborated on that much. And you're left to draw conclusions, just like a lot of the random stuff in this game. Oh shoot, Omori did not succumb. You like lose if Omori dies, right? Oh shoot. I'll have to check because the character that gives you the quest definitely doesn't appear in Far Away, but I'll have to check if the plushy character that the other character is one of the ones that is connected to one of the younger kids, because that might be an interesting topic. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can't go up there yet because yeah, because of the fear of heights thing. Fear of heights, fear of everything. Man, this guy can't do anything. We should kill him. Apple juice. I love apple juice. I had apple juice today, actually. It's a very refreshing drink to have while I'm at work. Alright, let's speed through this. I don't know how completionist I want to be. Whenever I play OMORI, whenever I've historically done playthroughs of OMORI, I am very much a completionist. I do love the game so much, emotionally, that I want to experience as much of it as I can whenever I try to do a new playthrough. Unpopular opinion, I know, because the gameplay isn't really that great. And I don't play it that often. Like I said, it's been a few years since I've actually played the game. But obviously in this playthrough, in the interest of time, we probably will not be doing Orange Oasis. So maybe while we're just doing this random walk through Vast Forest, we can discuss Orange Oasis a little bit, because it is a very interesting area. It was at one point in development considered to be a more important location. Mari was at one point some sort of ice cream princess that ruled over Orange Oasis, which again goes back to the idea that the truth as we know it likely just didn't exist for a really just likely didn't exist in the way we know it. Which is really interesting. Yeah, she does play such a central role. Was she even... I mean, I think somebody told me that she wasn't even Sunny's sister at one point, which I'm sure OmoCat must have said somewhere. But yeah, Orange Oasis, in the state that it appears in the game, is more of an optional area that you can visit after fighting Space Boy. Actually, can you do it night one? You might have to wait until the second night. It's an interesting enough area. There's some cool stuff in there. Of course, the unbred twins. Maybe we will do Orange Oasis, at least that part of it, so that we can fight the unbred twins. Because Bready Steady Go is such a bop. It's stated to be the oldest part of Headspace. There's an old guy there. Though the old guy, it can be found at the train station before, so I guess he's not from there, but it's stated that it's older, which makes sense. It's like all dinosaurs, so I guess Sunny really liked dinosaurs as a kid. Is the common interpretation of that, which I think works well enough. It could also represent, we know that Sunny and Mari did not live in Faraway forever, because there is a reference later in the game to Kel and Hiro already living in Faraway when they moved in. And so a lot of people interpret Orange Oasis to be kind of related to wherever they moved from. It could also represent the city, which there's a couple of things to say about the city, but we'll kind of get into that as it comes up, because the city, there's not a lot to say about the city as it is referred to in game. But there is a couple things. They don't leave you entirely in the dark on where Sunny is moving. Surprisingly, I think a lot of people don't realize that there are other references to the city. It's Stranger. Stranger's an interesting character because people treat him as if he is a character, which, if I'm being real, is not something that, I mean, obviously he's a character, right? And, you know, in a lot of ways, he is distinct from Basil. And there's some implications that he's like split up, he's like half of Basil, right? Of Headspace Basil, basically. And then you have the scene in the Sunny route where Stranger runs up to Basil. We'll see that later on if we keep playing that long, but which I always took to mean that was Stranger rejoining with Basil, and that all the versions of Basil we see after that, you know, the Basil that is right before the truth sequence in front of the tree, and in many respects the Basil right before Memory Lane. I've always took that to be the actual version of Basil in Sunny's mind after Stranger combines with Headspace Basil at the end of Black Space. However, Stranger does appear at the very end of the game to lead you to Basil's hospital room, and he appears as Stranger and not Headspace Basil, which you could argue is done that way because if they just put Basil there, that wouldn't make too much sense. But I still think it is interesting nonetheless. Long story short, I think Stranger is not intended to be as much of a character as people treat him. And I think he really should just be treated more as a extension of Basil's thoughts, in fact, following Sunny into his dreams. Even if they don't seem to fully line up with what the real Basil thinks, and are more representative of what Sunny believes he has to do in order to save Basil. I'm the Wise Rock. Give me bad advice, please. Don't be ugly. I don't know. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. Like, Stranger, I guess you can't really deny that he is a character. I just don't think he is really a character in the sense that he would ever interact with, like, Headspace in that way. He's more of just like a manifestation of Black Space. And I know maybe some of the stuff at the end of the Omori route kind of goes against that. I just don't think he's like Dreamer, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I mean, all interpretations are valid. There's the train station. You can go in there. I'm not going to. Actually, I will go in there. I'll show you. Yeah, so that's the bunny quest. We're not really going to do it. Popcorn. Howdy. Yep, there he is. He's going to get turned into stone later. Alright, we're not going to get bogged down on these battles. If we need to grind later, we can. But let's collect all these items. Banana smoothie. Did you guys see that? Banana smoothie. What do I think happened to Real World Miwo? Somewhat unpopular opinion. I do not believe that Miwo is alive. However, oh, my hat fell off. Uh-oh. But I do think that you could also interpret that Miwo ran away. I do not think that Miwo is still actively owned by Sunny or his mother. I guess you could say maybe his dad took him, but that's not something you would usually attribute to a dad running off on his family as taking their cat. I think that the Miwo room in Black Space is pretty clear cut on what Miwo happened. I don't think, to be clear, I do not believe that Sunny killed Miwo. I believe that Miwo got sick or injured. I believe that Mari was the one who would have taken care of Miwo when Mari was alive. And I think that it is a sick distortion of a visit to the vet in which Miwo did not make it. As sad as it is to say, you could point out that lilies of the valleys are toxic to cats, but Sunny clearly wasn't taking care of the cat in the state that he was in. Miwo clearly doesn't exist in the real world unless maybe there's a black cat running around in if you don't know this, at nighttime before you go back to Sunny's house, if you go to the park, there's a bunch of cats around. So maybe Miwo's there. I don't think so. I think Miwo has unfortunately passed away, and that the Black Space room is a reference to a bad visit to the vet. And I think that Sunny does feel guilty for Miwo's death because he killed Mari. However, I think if Sunny directly killed Miwo, well, first, I don't think it would make sense for Sunny to kill Miwo. I don't think that the characterization of Sunny, or really even Omori, lends itself to that interpretation. And I think if Sunny did kill Miwo, Miwo would not be in white space. It's fine. Feel free to ask any questions, by the way. I'm like, Vast Forest really just doesn't have a whole lot going on in it. There's not a whole lot to talk about because it's just trees and pinwheels, of course, which, pinwheels are important to Omori. But if anybody has any questions they want to ask regarding my interpretation for certain parts of this game, I would be more than happy to answer them. We'll let Kel hold on to Hector for now. Let's just try to. Oh, here it is, the classic tree fight. Yeah, I think that is a very valid interpretation. Cats are known to get depressed. This fight's interesting. Some people miss it, but it's a big old tree. Very early foreshadowing for the truth. Very interesting image as well. Sunny staring up at the tree. I'm sure if you look into the bark, you could probably find some secret images in there. I'm not actually going to waste time on that. I don't think you can actually beat the tree. I feel like that fight would just go on, just goes on forever. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I seem to remember it being a waste of time. Oh shoot, there's a blue melon there. Watermelons are everywhere in this game, but fun fact, the melon soda that appears in this game is not watermelon soda. It is a different type of melon. The game is candidly, yes, there is a lot of overlap between. So the problem with this, and correct me if I'm wrong, candidly is the quest A Good Listener, where you have to find the stuffed bear, which is one of the scare bears or whatever. Um, so Aubrey and Basil do have a lot of overlap in the way their relationship with Sunny is portrayed within the game. Well, so the part that references Sunny or references Basil is the quest's existence in the first place. A good listener, which is exactly what Basil calls Sunny within the photo album. Am I wrong about this? Is that not Candlely? I think that's Candlely. There's also the fact that one of the memory lane memories is you remembered Basil's smile as he blew out his birthday candles, and candles do appear a few times in Headspace, because that is such a memory for Sunny. Yeah, so Aubrey also like that. Now, this is brought up a couple times for Aubrey and Basil. Now, Basil, it's brought up like the first thing that happens when you look at the photo album is you see that, which is interesting because that photo is not in the Headspace photo album. So that would be the first time that you see that Basil looks at Sunny that way and considers Sunny important in that way. Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was about to die. The other thing is they're also situated like the table where Sunny and Basil always sit. If you don't know, right before Memory Lane in the house, in Sunny's house with all the furniture still there, there's a table with chairs at it that Sunny says, this is the chair that I always sit at and this is the chair that Basil always sits at, which is also another connection that you could make between the Good Listener quest, Candlely, and Basil and Sunny. I think that is a valid interpretation that Candlely represents both of them, because that is also a relationship and dynamic that Sunny has with Aubrey. I think in context of Firefly Forest, it makes sense. It does make more sense for it to represent Basil because that Firefly Forest's other quest is for Demi, where you have to find an interesting book for him from Sweetheart's Castle, which is another reference to Basil and Sunny. First off, Demi just looks like Sunny, but is just another reference to Basil and Sunny's friendship, where Basil would recommend books for Sunny to read. I'm not going to get too much into that aspect of Aubrey's character. I've seen a lot of criticisms of that aspect of Aubrey's character is not introduced until very late in the story. I don't know how much I buy into that. It is... The first time it's outright stated is in the photo album. Or not in the photo album, right before Memory Lane, or the duet sequence, or whatever. But you do have the swing set scene that you can do that. That's true. The stuffed toy, I guess I never really thought about it from that way. I guess in that respect, you could say that it does reference Belle. I think that is a very valid interpretation. Okay. She does have a stuffed toy. Mr. Plant Egg is his name. Don't you forget it. But don't you worry though. We are super going to go into Firefly Forest as we go through it, because I do think Firefly Forest is one of the more interesting Headspace areas. I think Sunny's fear of spiders is one of the more interesting fears he has. Fear of heights is kind of dealt with really early on, and fear of drowning is also a really good sequence when you're confronting it. Yeah, good on you. That's not a way that I ever really thought about it. That is also true. Now there are I believe there are scrapped scenes in the last area of Black Space. That's the one where all the friends brutally murder Basil. But before you do that, you do get to sit on the swings with Basil. And I believe there are cut scenes where you also get to play on the slide and one of the other some of the other playground equipment with him, but that did not make it into the final game. Yeah. Night 2 of Headspace is very interesting. I think a lot of people get caught up in the repetitiveness of Sweetheart's Castle, but it is the first time you get to see Headspace with the knowledge that there is a real world. I mean, obviously you know there's a real world here. I could just be making it up, by the way. I distinctly remember sprites of them playing on the swing or on the slide. I think you might be able to see it in the wiki if you go to that black space area. But I'm going to be honest, these days it's hard for me to tell what was actually in the game and what is something that was like fandom, like fan art or like a fanfic or something. I haven't read many fanfics lately, but yeah. You know, the first OMORI fanfiction was a sunflower fic. Isn't that crazy? Not really. It's not that crazy. Yeah, the pacing can get a bit out of control, but I think as far as Headspace goes, there are more references in Sweetheart's Castle and Pyrify Florist than any other area. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of more stuff as we play, but personally speaking, I think the prologue is the best as far as pacing is concerned and the way it foreshadows things. But if you are going through it with an eye for detail, I think there is a lot more in Night 2 for that. Especially with all the stuff home related, like Sweetheart's Castle is supposed to be this is where home is or whatever. Orange Oasis, this isn't where home is. What does Sweetheart represent? She has her whole thing about loving herself, which indicates that Sunny does not have a very healthy idea of the concept of loving yourself. The ball has gone off somewhere, never to be seen again. Man, you do have to do this side quest. This is not the side quest where you get headbutt, right? This is a prerequisite for it, right? Oh, back to Vast Forest. I think I remember where this is. Oh, does she? That'd be awesome. Man, I do have to work early tomorrow. Maybe we won't get through the prologue, because we still have to go through the entire junkyard. And I haven't even talked about Daisy yet. Oh, I think this is cute. How Van is like a babysitter almost for the younger kids. Vance, there's not a whole lot to Vance as a character. He's primarily known as Kim's brother, and he's just kind of a chill guy, but this is cute. I'm pretty sure a friend of mine, Daisy. Well, I wasn't really going to talk about that aspect to it quite yet, but Daisy is this character right here, which Daisy like I said before, it's a very interesting character because she's the only person on the playground who doesn't have a real world counterpart. Now, people like to say that. Oh shoot! I didn't heal. People like to say that Daisy might represent Charlie because Daisy, well, her primary character traits are that she is friends with Neb and she has a crush on Neb. Charlie is the two things we know about Charlie are that she is friends with Angel, and that she has a crush on someone because you can find the love letter on her desk or table when you go in her house. The problem is Charlie already has a Headspace character, and I don't think it makes sense for just Charlie to have two. That's my opinion on that. Oh, that's right, you have to eat the nutritious candy. Burr, 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 burr. I mean, I guess we can kind of talk more about the Daisy stuff right now, because we're going back to Vast Forest. But, so Daisy's quest, you are supposed to find a gift for her crush, which is Neb. Who is Neb? The gift that you end up fishing out of the trash for her is a puzzle. Now, this is, I mean, you know, the implications of this, if you wanted to be sunflower-minded about it, you know, very interesting that a character named Daisy is having crush-related quests. But even outside of that, when you do eventually find a Daisy in Black Space, and you interact with it, it gives you it is worded as a single Daisy. And then in the OMORI route, when you always be sunflower minded, in the OMORI route, when you are sorting through Sunny's belongings, you can find, yes, Neb is Angel's counterpart. Doesn't really make sense why his name's Neb. I never really got it, but in the OMORI route, when you're sorting through Sunny's belongings, you do find a single puzzle piece, and that's how it says it. It says a single puzzle piece, just like in Black Space it says a single Daisy. And so, you know, sunflower minded about that, you could ask where Sunny got that single puzzle piece from. My interpretation is that there's a Daisy on that puzzle piece, because you never actually hear Basil himself talk about daisies. My interpretation has always been that Sunny himself had made that distinction for Basil. But I mean, there's a lot of extrapolation that can be done there. And then, you know, daisies are definitely connected to Basil because one, they appear in Black Space, and two, right next to Stranger, and two, they there's the OST Home for Flowers Daisy, which I believe is the version that plays in his garden right before the truth sequence. Here it is, by the way. Bud Girl is up that way, but we have not unlocked the technique to go up there yet. But yeah. Maybe. Is Angel named after a developer like some of the other ones are? I don't know. I've looked up in the past what Neb could mean. There's like a couple of weird definitions that you could use. I think it can be like colloquially. I like found a definition once that like said it meant nose, like slang for nose. And then, you know, there's of course a character in the playground whose name is Nose. but there's just not much there to really go off of. The most interesting thing about Neb is the fact that Daisy has a crush on him, because Neb doesn't really do anything in Headspace. He has like one line of dialogue in which he says he likes puzzles. By the way, the thing about the single puzzle piece that you can find in Sunny's belongings is that you do find this sprite around quite a bit, which is missing a piece. There's 4 pieces missing from the puzzle, and there are only 3 pieces sitting next to it. So there is a missing puzzle piece there. Much to think about. That's true. Sunny does like making fun of people. Sunny's an interesting character. What little we get to know, like when we see his internal thoughts, he's a very sassy guy. It lends itself to a lot of I've been told by people that that they believe it is a stretch, and I think it's because I have tried to imply that it is related to Sunflower, which I've made no secret to believing there to be some sort of subtext in the game about, just with the way OMOCAT has talked about it, or OMOCAT and other developers have talked about it in the past. However, I've grown a little softer on that as time has gone on. The single Daisy in the rain room. There's also the fact that I believe in that room, like Stranger's dialogue is like, it's the one where he's like, my heart hurts and I can't think straight, which is always a favorite of Sunflower shippers. But yeah. The One Piece! The One Piece is real! That's true. I've known so many Sunflowers who have quit before it's real, before we win. Gosh, I'm thinking about that like bonus comic that was in the back of the recent volume release that OMOCAT drew, where it was like, and for some reason, Sunny was in every picture Basil took. I'm like, come on. Come on. That's like fan service. Yeah, it is. I mean, all the rooms with Stranger are really somber because of what he's talking about, but the thing about the rain room, so, and only like the first 6 rooms of Black Space, are required, and nearly all of the good, meaty Stranger's dialogue is not actually required. It is super easy to miss, and this is actually something that I go into a lot, where if you actually want to understand Basil as a character and try to find things that represent Basil, a lot of it is not mandatory, especially when we're discussing things about how Sunny feels about Basil. Like, you don't really get into Stranger saying things about Sunny until you're in the non-required Black Space rooms. Now, most people play through all the Black Space rooms anyway, but you don't have to. And the branch coral is the other thing there. Not required. You can definitely miss it. There's a lot of Stranger appearances as well as something appearances that are also not required, because you have to backtrack to see them. Not to mention the secret ending of the game is only is very missable as well if you don't remember to water all of Basil's flowers each night. So it's interesting. I think there is a very valid. You guys know who I am, right? Like, of course, I believe a sunflower interpretation of OMORI is valid. I'm the lead writer on a sunflower mod. This is interesting. Hero forgets why they didn't climb the ladder before. The reason was because OMORI was afraid of heights. I don't think this happens. Oh yeah. I don't think this happens later in the game. I don't think we get scenes. I mean, obviously they forget about trying to find Basil. But I don't think there's a direct line in which they forget. Oh, did you guys hear that? I don't think there's a direct line where they reference forgetting that OMORI was scared of spiders, of course, because Hero was afraid of spiders. Nor do they reference him no longer being afraid of drowning after he faces that fear. It's just interesting. It's a concept that isn't really expanded on much, especially because when Fear of Spiders comes up, everybody's more focused on Hero being afraid of spiders, and when Fear of Drowning comes up, Mari's the only one around. By the way, if you climb back down, I know I'm wasting time here, but you do get a cute little scene. I should say a funny scene if you go down here and you try to pick up this rock that definitely wasn't here before, and it just says a regular rock. Yeah, why'd you climb back down that ladder, stupid? You think it was gonna be that easy? No, Hector moved out to the desert and he has a family now. We might not make it through other space here because I'm kind of hungry and I gotta work early. But I will probably hop on tomorrow. We'll keep playing a little bit. Maybe I'll order food real quick and then we'll just keep playing until my food gets here, because I don't have, my fridge was broken for a while, so I don't have any groceries. And I just got paid yesterday. I haven't been to the grocery store yet. I don't have a cold steak. Yeah, I am unfortunately in my sunny era. I did have cold sausage that I heated up that, for the most part, seems to be good. Will it let us go through? Is that my butt certificate? There's all the cold steak smoothie combo. Yeah, there's all these mentions of Hero in Headspace constantly being out of breath and not being a very physically fit person, which is another thing that's contrasted in the real world, where he jogs. He jumps into the lake with no hesitation. Like, other than Kel, he does seem to be physically fit. And there's a bunch of interpretations you could have of that. It could be that, from Sunny's point of view, Hero was always out of breath, trying to deal with Aubrey and Kel's antics, or it could mean that he chose to be more physically fit. Yeah, butts are all over the place in OMORI. Now, that he chose to get more physically fit during the time skip, which is something that could have happened. He does have a lot of awards as well that he probably got throughout high school, but I always interpreted that as starting prior to everything. He is shown to feel guilt for the fact that Mari was the one that had to jump after Sunny during the lake incident. When you do that line of, when you trigger that event in the real world, which you can only do if you don't do the recycle path stuff. Or no, you can see that if you do the recycle path stuff. We'll talk about the daydreams when we get to it, the hallucinations. Hero clearly feels guilt that he was already in the water, and Mari had to jump in after it. I do think Sunny can be wrong. However, I don't think the game wants us to believe that happens often. I think a lot of things are simply misinterpreted. For instance, with Kel drinking milk, while it's true that Kel says he doesn't like milk, it is also true that there is a common belief that if you drink a lot of milk, you can grow taller. And pre-canon Kel wants to be taller, so you could interpret Kel as still drinking a bunch of milk even if he doesn't like it, and that being represented in Headspace, or Sunny forcing Headspace Kel to drink milk because he knows Kel wants to be taller even though he doesn't like drinking milk. Again, it's one of those things where all interpretations are valid. I don't think it does. The real world version of the caption says that Orange Joe is his favorite drink, but the Headspace version says, "Oh, I better not get too close or my camera will get wet." I might be wrong about that, but I did just look at it. I don't think we get you don't get the photo album, the Headspace photo album again in this route. Okay, yeah, I guess it is in there then. Yeah, I mean, so we only find out that Kel didn't like milk in the real world section of the game. It's completely possible that that's just not something that Sunny knew about Kel, that he didn't like milk. Like, he could have just seen Kel drinking a lot of milk. And of course, the only reason it's like that in the first place is that Orange Joe is not a drink in Headspace, it is a character. And so there has to be another drink there. Also, it's pretty unlikely that Orange Joe was Kel's favorite drink. No, I mean, I guess it was, because there's the picture of him drinking it. I don't think a 12-year-old Kel should be drinking a coffee-based drink, but I guess they let him do it. That's what Orange Joe is, right? It's orange juice and coffee. Am I making that up? That's where the Joe comes from, right? Cup of Joe. All right, we're gonna place a food order. It is Friday, so places should be open. I shouldn't be ordering out so often, but because I really, really wanted to do this stream, I literally logged on right after I got off work. Oh man, I don't even know what I want. Oh man, I'm so hungry, it all looks good. see. I might get a hero sandwich. Oh, Korean fried chicken sounds good. There's a really good sushi place nearby. I could get Indian food. But I just had butter chicken earlier this week. I had it on Wednesday. I cooked it myself. That tasted so good. I try not to order pizza anymore because it's like the most expensive thing and I live alone, so I always end up eating too much. So I make my own pizza when I want to make pizza, because I also have like a good pizza crust recipe I got from my dad. I could get Italian. Oh, I could get ramen. I love living downtown in a city, by the way. Like everything is like, oh, it's so close. Maybe I'd go America Build and get a burger. No, I'm not. I'm not feeling burgers right now. I think I am feeling. I think I've narrowed it down to ramen or sushi. I haven't had ramen in a hot minute, but I've never been sure about getting ramen delivered. Did just have. Sorry, I'm making you guys. This is my ADHD indecisiveness trying to decide what I want to eat. This is what I go through every day. You vote ramen? Okay, just for you, I will eat ramen. Now I have to decide which ramen I want. Oh, pork bao? I'm gonna splurge a little bit because I'm really hungry right now. So we'll get a smaller ramen so that I can also get bao. Ooh, I'll get a. Oh, they have peach green tea. Buy one get one free. Mango green tea. Oh shoot! When I looked up, only the one message was in the chat. Sorry, I am already placing an order for ramen now, though. Also, I don't have to apologize for what I ordered for dinner. Besides, if I did order sushi, that place is like 5 minutes from here, and I'd feel guilty for ordering delivery for that. And also, it would get here in like 5 minutes, and I'd have to end the stream like right now. All right, which ramen do I want? Oh. Oh gosh. Never go to like a new restaurant with me because I'm gonna be sitting there staring at the menu for ages just trying to decide what I want. Clear soup, no. Spicy miso? Maybe. I could do spicy. I'm gonna get, you know what? I'm going to buy their signature sushi, or not sushi, ramen. I like ordering whenever I go to a restaurant. If they have one, oh, I wish I could go to the Omori Cafe. I have the shirt. A friend of mine went to the cafe for me and picked it up, and even though I asked him to do that because he lives in LA, even though I asked him to do that, I still wish I could have gone myself. Yeah. All right. So it says I'll be here in like an hour, so I guess we got another hour. When I grow up, I'm going to be a space pirate. I'm going to travel all around the universe. I really like Space Boyfriend, Space Captain Space Boy. I know there was like some drama with like the creator who was one of the musicians. I heard that like she had like they had a falling out. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about something I don't know much about. So pretend I didn't say that. The heroes always win. By the way, Mari like plays the flute, right? Like that's what she's doing. I'm pretty sure, right? During these scenes. I guess she could be like singing. Actually, yeah, it looks more like she's singing, which is another interesting thing. That's not really a trait. Yeah, Space Boy is trans, a trans icon, which is not something that came through in the game and would have been a little difficult considering all things considered. I mean, I'm trying to think, because you do get Space Boy backstory in the Omori route, because you meet his father. I'm pretty sure they keep it vague, but like it's never directly referenced. I think it would have been difficult to include references to it, considering that Space Boy's kind of like a boss, and then he's just kind of like a fail son for the rest of the game. But I do love him. He's also got style. He's got like Captain Harlock vibes. Oh man, I can't believe that I did this. Nice. Recycling is interesting because you have the recycling stuff in the real world, which who knows how real any of that is, but you also have the recycling stuff in Headspace, and also recycling is a major theme of the game because Headspace is a loop, and each time Sunny has regurgitated the same memories over and over again to come up with these adventures. Space Pirate Guy. Congratulations, Space Pirate Guy, on appearing in the OMORI manga, by the way. Isn't that kind of crazy? They've cut out so much of the manga, but of the story in the manga, but they've added some stuff too, which is kind of weird. I mean, that's the only, like, reason I can even have for it being in there, is Sonny is recycling his memories to create headspace, and this has been going on for 4 years, and he hasn't been making any new memories. But yeah. I mean, you can make some bullshit up for literally anything in this game if you think hard enough about it. And if you say it authoritatively enough, people will believe you. That's true. I do remember that part of the manga. There's also, like, it's like when they're trying to write the letters, right? Thank you, little lady. I sure hope so. What can we do for you, bro? There's a, I don't know if you realize this, but the way this is set up, you're probably supposed to believe that Space Boy is also a bird, and that is his beak, and he has a beard, and he's like a manly, like, bird, like all of the other space pirates are birds, I think, including his dad. And then when you actually talk to him, like, I don't think he actually gets up until much later, like after you've already done all the junkyard stuff. Me, when I see a table with 2 chairs next to it, is this a sunflower reference? So Otherworld is a campsite, which goes back to what I said earlier about there being references to some kind of camping trip throughout Headspace and within the game, despite it never being directly addressed by Sonny, nor in the photo album. It is directly brought up by Kel to say that both he and Angel went to it. But you have, Otherworld Campsite. Also interesting that they call it Otherworld Campsite because it is more of a little town, really. Here's an interesting fact, to go along with the fact that Space Boy, that the prologue is foreshadowing. Space Boy, his hair is pink right now, just like Aubrey's, and then when you fight him, his hair becomes green, just like Headspace Basil, and when you beat him, you get an eye patch, which you also get at the end of the game, after fighting Basil. Spoiler alert. Now, the mixtape in this interpretation represents the photo album. And just like we are going to go dig through the trash to find the mixtape, that is exactly where we find the photo album. Yeah, so Space Boy, in the real world sections of the game, Aubrey is the primary driver of the plot because she is the one who's really doing the most that like gives you a direction in the real world. However, of course, the ending of the game reveals that it's really Basil who is the, I wouldn't say antagonist, but the one you'd be fighting at the end. And just like that, you have Captain Spaceboy, whose hair starts out pink and turns green by the end of the prologue. I think it's just during the fight where his hair is green, but I don't remember if his sprite updates in the overworld. But, like I said, you get an eye patch after the fight, which on its own is like a fun pirate reference, but you also lose an eye after fighting Basil. Kel is a large driver of the plot. He's like, he brings you out of the house, and of course, the vehicle that delivers you to the park where you run into Basil and Aubrey is Kel wanting to go to, well, just hang out with Sunny in general, but also pick up the gift for Hero. But I think once Aubrey is introduced, most of the story-related things that you have to do really wouldn't happen without Aubrey. I mean, I guess let's think. Let me think it through. So, day 2. What happens in day 2? You can find the hooligans in. I know what happens at the end of day 2 because everybody knows what happens at the end. How does it start? You have errands to run, right? You have to go pick stuff up for Kel's mom before she gets home, or before Hero gets home. Yeah, that's right. And then after you do that, Polly. So I guess yeah, in that way. I guess it depends on how much you consider that plot rather than just like something. Yeah, Basil gets lost. Yeah, Polly shows up at Kel's house. And then you have to go to the secret hideout and all that happens. I mean, in their own way, everybody's kind of driving the plot, but especially in 1 day left and 3 days left, I feel like Aubrey is the main reason you have a goal that's not just walk around town with Kel and Hero. I don't know. I think there is something to that. I don't think there'd be much of a reason for Spaceboy's hair to change colors if they weren't thinking about that at all. But, I mean, I'm willing to admit that this interpretation of the prologue does have some issues. There's a side quest you can find in Cattail Fields where there's a scarecrow and you have to go find 3 crows, and you can only win with Hero. You can only get the crows to join you if you have Hero in the first party spot to convince the crows to come with you. And you could interpret the scarecrow as representing Basil because Hero is the one who pushes the group to go reconnect with Aubrey. And the three crows are Sunny, could potentially be Sunny, Kel, and Aubrey. Can I win this fight right now? I'm gonna try. There's a few scarecrows in the game. There's the quest one. There's the one that you throw things at, which I think also kind of represents Basil because it's about bullying and I'm pretty sure he talks about that. And there's like another random scarecrow you can find somewhere. So we need to attack with Kel. And we'll attack with Hero. So we pass to OMORI. And then OMORI gets sad. And then you can use Sad Poem. Or you can use Stab because it ignores defense. And then we can annoy Aubrey. Oh, my attack was cancelled. I don't know what to make of this fight. I think it's just something silly. I've thought a few times about it. There's a follow-up fight you can do in the OMORI route where you fight both Earth and Pluto at the same time, I'm pretty sure. Maybe you could maybe say something about Sunny rejecting the real world. Sure. I'm glad that I'm like finding things to talk about here. I was so concerned that I was gonna like turn the stream on and I was gonna be like, and then nobody was gonna join anyway, and it was just gonna be me awkwardly sitting at my computer playing OMORI. Yeah, it's also easy when it's OMORI. Like, I'm sure if I was playing one of my other favorite games, like, I've been playing this game called X4, like, the past week. And that's, like, a spaceship, like, game where you build, like, space stations, and I would not have nearly enough, like, as many things to talk about in that game than I do about this game. We did it. We beat the Earth. I think I always lose a character in like the last round of that combat, and then they don't get the XP, and then they're behind everybody else, and it really annoys me when it happens. I think it annoyed me so much last time, like the last time I actually played this for myself, it annoyed me so much that I loaded a previous save so I could redo the fight without losing a character and getting their XPs desynced. Somebody should kill him. The planets. So Pluto. That's another part, another wrinkle in the OMORI timeline debate, is that Headspace includes this plotline regarding Pluto not necessarily being one of the planets, which is not something that happened until like 2006 or 2008 or something like that. The debate has existed a lot longer than that, and I don't know that they directly say that in the game. And I don't think the game, either pre-canon or post-canon, is in 2008. I had an iPhone in 2008, or did I have an iPhone in 2008? No, I got an iPhone in 2011 because I got it. My parents got me it when I was in like 8th grade, and then I destroyed it because you should not give children expensive phones like that. I fell and it shattered against a brick wall. That's true. Add this to the pile. Sunny is psychic. Something I've never really commented on is that there is an interpretation that Headspace is real. And I even have to add some friends who see Headspace as this like psychic realm-ish thing that does exist. And when you do listen to Omocat talk about it, I think there is some indication that it's not just like a dream world, but it's another one of those things, just like Sunny's parents knowing about the truth, where Sunny did this to himself, I think is really important. I guess Headspace can be real and that still be true, but it needs to have been... This needs to be something that Sunny did to himself. Like... I get that you can talk to the old guy in Orange Oasis, and Orange Oasis is really old, and they talk about how like there's been previous dreamers and stuff like that, and I get that there's not like a whole like the way that you can interpret that is that this is something that exists with or without Sunny, but in my opinion I don't really vibe with that concept. I prefer Headspace to be a dream world of Sunny's creation that he is solely responsible for. Yeah, I think that's a good explanation of it. It's just one of those things where, yeah, the ghosts, Headspace, Sunny's parents knowing, there's things like these are things that you could reasonably believe happen within OMORI, and like the evidence for those things cannot be argued against with the way that evidence is presented, especially with the ghosts in like the hero scene, which you could always interpret as Sunny playing the piano. Basil's grandma's ghost appearing in the crossroads is... I hate the idea of Ghost Mari being actual Mari spirit. I will just say that right now. I think of all the things that I have mentioned that potentially take agency away from Sunny's actions, the concept of Ghost Mari being real is the worst of those things. And yet, I remain understanding that a lot of those ghost scenes that exist are very difficult to actually argue against. I think you could argue that because Mari's ghost does not appear in the Omori route and is replaced by Kel on One Day Left, that you could reasonably argue that that is a creation of Sunny's mind specifically because of what he went through after jumping into the lake. So that you could argue against. I think the hardest ghost to argue against is the apparition of Basil's grandma at the crossroads, because while she clearly wasn't in a good place, in a good way when Sunny saw her last, Sunny doesn't have a way to know that Basil's grandma just died. It's a whole thing. Yeah, but Mari's ghost being a real ghost is just not something I enjoy. Maestro, he appears at Sweetheart's castle later with the toilet that he fished out of the trash. That's the vibes of this game. You also have Basil's grandma appearing in Headspace as a stranger during that sequence, which is technically after. Well, I mean, it's the same night that Basil's grandma is implied to have passed away. I don't think that is trying to imply that it's a ghost of Basil's grandma stuck in Headspace, forever looking for her lost grandson. I think that's just a remnant from a previous version of Headspace in which Basil's grandma existed before she was written out. I've said it before, I don't think every loop of Headspace is exactly the same. I mean, I think it says it later on, but like the truth is always hidden in a different space. The water level has clearly been rising over time, and I think that has been like when you have the stuff with the lighthouse and stuff like that. My food's going to be here in about 20 minutes. Let's see how far into this area we can make it. I think I'll call it in about 10 minutes. That way I'm not like rushing to end the stream to go downstairs to let the guy in to give me the food. Oh shoot, we need to yeah, so I think there is an indication that in previous versions of Headspace, like, they had houses. You have the one copy of Basil in Black Space that talks about growing watermelons, which I fully believe was probably something that happened within a previous run of Headspace. There's never any indication in the real world that they grew watermelons, though there is that calendar art of them making an actual garden, presumably in Basil's backyard, though I guess it could also be in Mari and Sunny's backyard, or even Kel and Hiro's backyard. But yeah, watermelon privileges taken away. It isn't. The watermelon stuff is interesting. It's obviously a reference to the it's a reference to the watermelon that they eat at the beach, but I mean, is that all it's a reference to? Like, come on. I don't remember if this enemy is actually dangerous or not. Oh, oops. Also, that's an unidentified flying orange. I think that OMOCat really liked making Headspace, and it's really unfortunate that it is not the part of the game that people resonated with. Or maybe it's not unfortunate that people didn't resonate with that part, depending on how you feel about OMOCat. Snaily! Lovely weather, isn't it? Sorry, I'm... Could be. I am trying... I always forget to start this quest before I go into the junkyard for TV Girl. And then I always have to run through the junkyard again. I know I said that we weren't going to be like doing quests, but I can't help it. I actually do really like a lot of the Headspace quests. TV Girl is an OMOCat original character, an OC, if you will. There's a T-shirt you can buy with TV Girl on it. That I believe predates OMORI. In conclusion, Toby Fox ripped off TV Girl from OMOCat. Is TV Girl a band? Oh wow, I did not know that. Starfruit Soda. That's a Kingdom Hearts reference. Yeah, because Starfruit, I believe, is not a real thing. I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I already know that the whole joke here is that I'm going to get to the end and the Sprout Mole is going to be like, I can't believe you just destroyed all these cones. I can't help myself though. When it comes to OMORI, I'm a completionist. I thought I was just going to do a very straightforward playthrough so that I could get to the interesting parts I want to talk about. But I can't help it. You forget about like stuff like this. After a while, things like spending a full minute cutting down traffic cones just to get yelled at by a Sprout Mole that makes you put them all back up. I don't know TV Girl, but now that you've mentioned TV Girl, I will look into TV Girl. I got a blanket. Oh, there's a quest we can do real quick, which is another interesting quest. Let's see. So you have this house here, Mr. and Mrs. Ducky, who are looking for their son. You will find that there are a lot of quests in Headspace that are all about trying to find a lost person or item. Which is a reference to the fact that you are looking for Basil throughout the portion of this game. Now, something that you will that you need to understand is that Mr. and Mrs. Ducky look like rabbits. They are based off of the optical illusion of a drawing that looks like either a rabbit or a duck, depending on how you look at it. Now they live in a present. If you remember, so most of these quests about finding a lost person or item seem to be references to Basil as a way of Headspace as trying to get through to Sunny. However, there are a few of them like this one where the further you look into them, you realize that it's not really about Basil, it's about Sunny, whereabouts of Ducky Jr. I'm sure his parents are awfully worried about him. She has like more dialogue about it after you complete the quest. And what you kind of find out is that it's really, well, the way I interpret it at least, is it's really not about Basil, it's more about Sunny, which in my opinion is kind of a reference to the fact that the quest to find Basil in Headspace really isn't about Basil at all. It's really more about Sunny, who has rejected himself and is calling himself Omori within Headspace, needs to find himself. And he needs to find his own memories that he's locked away. He needs to find how much his friends are important to him, friends like Basil, even though he's so inexplicably connected to this traumatic event. He needs to find these kind of things, or in his mind, he'll never be able to move on. Basil will especially never be able to move on. It's a vehicle for the truth, and so this quest, though on the outset, and I believe this is the first side quest other than the one to find Basil, where you are trying to find someone rather than something. So on its outset, it seems like it's a reference to trying to find Basil, but through this optical illusion, it makes you think that it's actually about trying to find Sunny. And there's a couple of other things that that tell you that as well. If you talk to Mari after completing the quest, she will describe Ducky Jr. as somebody who's always zones out with their head in the clouds, which is pretty similar to how we see Sunny described by characters and within his head. And also they live in a giant present, which if you remember, there's the photo album photo from Sunny's birthday in which he and Miwo are laying in the present box, and Basil says, "I guess this is Sunny's new home now," which is a really cute interaction. Also, here's a cool duffel bag. It's Jock Jams. It's Jock Jams. Basketball hoop. Kel went to summer camp. It's in a tent. We know Kel went to summer camp. Alright, I think we might have to if I go into the actual, he should have been at the club. If I start going to the actual through the actual junkyard right now, we're not going to get into it like at all. So I think we're going to start wrapping up here, and then also Ducky gives you a dandelion, and there's that Basil birthday photo where Sunny and Basil are looking at the dandelion. So it's basically a sunflower reference. Also, the dad says, we can finally spend some quality time together. Now go stand next to your mom. Which there is it's a clever reference to the fact that Sonny's dad left. Pluto. Yeah, you can fight Pluto here, right? This is the first time you can fight him, and that's how you can get that's how you get flex, right? Or does that happen later, or does it give you flex later? I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Basil birthday photo of Sunny and Basil in the field. They're looking at a dandelion. After he hides in the hole, that's right. This is an interesting house. It's small, the world's smallest centaur. Look at all his awards. He got second place in a most horse competition. He probably lost to an actual horse. Come on. I mean, so this house is a bit reminiscent of all the awards. Do make you think about Hero, who has a similar thing going on in his side of the bedroom. I think I did I had a theory a while ago that in a previous version of Headspace, everybody lived in Otherworld, and so this would have been where Sunny lived. This would have been Hero, I guess, because of all the awards. This would have been where Aubrey left. Kel would have lived up here. In the Space Pirate house. I don't know if there's much to this theory. Mari probably would have just lived in the present with Sunny. Yeah, that's the other thing, is development very early on. Obviously there's no house for Basil to live in, but that also kind of works because in original concepts of the game, Basil's house was quite a bit further away from everybody else's. If you look at the original Faraway Town map, and it's commented on that he lives further away than everybody else, which was not a concept that they decided to go with in the final game. Also, Gascon talks about forgetting his camera at home, which, you want to talk about the fact that summer camp is never referenced in the photo album. How about the fact that you have a character right here who complains about forgetting his camera at home at the Otherworld campsite? Isn't that something? Really makes you think. Yeah. There's also, Otherworld is based off a lot of things. It's partially based off of the treehouse, this is a toy that you could find at the treehouse. Cattail Field is like based off of the like paper mache stuff in the treehouse. I also really do believe that partially based off of I think when especially in Space Boy's house, it's pretty clear. I think you could definitely make the have the belief that this Space Boy's house is kind of based off of Kel and Hero's house. I'm just kind of like filling time because I still have like 7 minutes before my food gets here. So tomorrow, I get off work earlier tomorrow. So I'll probably start around 5 Eastern Standard Time, so an hour earlier than I did tonight. And then plus I don't work Sunday, so I can stay up later. But we'll try to do the junkyard and the first real world day. Real world really doesn't take that long unless you're doing like all the side quests, and I don't know if we're gonna do that, though I usually do. Are we gonna go for universally loved? I don't have the universally loved achievement. I don't know. But yes, send me your ideas. Everybody tweet about what you think. What merit badges did Sunny, Basil, Kel, and Hero all get when they went to summer camp? I want to know what everybody thinks. Hashtag CM Kurt Stream 2026. And don't make any posts if you're not going to make it more than 10 posts long in the thread. I want all of the details. Alright, everybody have a good night. If it's night where you are, it's almost night where I am. I'm gonna go eat dinner. I'm gonna eat my ramen. Good night.